other than the laptop. But I'm also having two set up so like I could do an interview with good light
Well, that's
road with
great.
my laptop. So I have
Yeah.
different set of equipment. Yeah.
Because I guess you're gonna have more and more interviews for
Yeah.
the yeah for the
It's
future.
funny because you know I've seen this done a million times because I used to help Ashley's mom set
Oh yeah, Mickey.
interview and
I see.
I did a little she'll tell you I think her and actually another lady named Sarah Maccabee. I
Hmm.
didn't teach them how to do interviews, but I told her once because sometimes people ask questions that are aggravating to you.
Sure.
And I
Sure.
said, Mickey, this is the thing. They can
Right.
ask you whatever question they
All right. So I think
you
we
want
can
to as
start.
well.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is December 13th. Biden pardoned his son Hunter about a week ago. So President Trump replied to the news. He said, "Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice." Today, we are joined by Tommy Tatum, a J6 patriot and a victim of the Capitol Police brutality, and an eyewitness to a horrible, horrible murder happened at that day. As a patriot and a defender of the truth, Tommy has taken Capitol Police and Biden administration to the court. Welcome to our podcast, Tommy. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Cheyenne, for having me so much. And
Sure.
I'm sure you have a large audience of Chinese Americans and Chinese around the world.
Hmm.
I met you through Rebecca.
Right. Rebecca is our
I,
friend.
I always back about yeah. I was just saying real quick. I always remember back to January 6th itself.
Hmm. Sure. Well,
Communism coming, and they were so. I don't even know how to express the feeling I had from them. Just the look in their eyes, it was like a warning to America of what was coming because they had already seen it, you know.
sure, sure. Well, thank you again so
Mhm.
much. And tell me, do you like to introduce yourself, briefly introduce yourself, and tell us how you
Yes,
get
ma'am.
involved for the J6?
Hmm. So my name is Tommy Tatum. I'm born and raised in Greenville, Mississippi, which is the Mississippi, which is historic for the blues
Mhm.
and being poor here, basically. But I grew up here. I in restaurants about 10, 20 years. And then I started running in the radio broadcast industry. I was managing like 10 radio stations here. And in that process, I met a gentleman. He was a genius. And that's a long story in and of himself. But and he taught me basically, he got to do news. And we created an online slash radio news service. And it was really neat technology that he had that
Mhm.
it blended industries together. And then
Sure.
when COVID hit, I started on local news
Hmm.
thing called the Washington County Auditor, and I was doing local stories about election and everything happens. And a friend asked me,
Hmm.
"Do you want to go to DC and see Donald Trump's speech?" I was
Hmm.
like, "Well, absolutely. It might be the last chance we get to see him speak as president." So that's how I ended up going to January 6th.
Sure. So what do you see in Junior 6? That there must be a lot of things that you have saw on that day. And then yeah, just tell us briefly.
I'll get right to the core of it because I had did an interview once with Lara Logan, and I told
Sure.
her this too because I know that she knows geopolitics out around the world, and a lot of Americans don't really realize what's going on around the world.
Mhm.
And we were just talking about Chinese Americans. I told her that what January 6th represents to me is the American team. I told her that was the day they told us to shut up or die. And then they killed a few of us.
I'm sorry, Tommy, I cannot hear you very clear. I think the
Oh, I'm sorry.
is not very yeah, stable.
Yeah, is that better? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah, you want to repeat again? Sorry.
Yeah. What I said was done is I call it the American Tiananmen Square. And it was the day they told us to shut up or die, and then
Right.
they killed a couple of
Right.
them.
So when you just got into DC, into Capitol Hill, what do you see? Everything's like peaceful, people are happy, and yeah, what do you see there?
But the way that we ended up, so when you talk about January 6th locations, one is at the Ellipse where the actual speech that Donald
Mhm,
Trump was giving was.
mhm,
And there, when you got there in the morning, it was like a festival atmosphere. It was almost like a party, like a family reunion, like a church service, a lot of
sure.
people say.
Hmm.
And there was so many people, never seen that many people before in my life. And I got as I could, and that was very far away still. But I have a recording. I recorded the whole speech. It's like an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
So that part was beautiful. I don't even think you can really express.
Hmm.
You would think that they would have been sad because we just lost an election, but it really was. It was a celebration of something,
Hmm.
and I don't even know really how to describe it. But then, for me, when we all walked peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol itself,
Hmm.
the day unfolded very differently for lots of different people. But for me, this is how it, on the west side, where I call the West Plaza. So it's
Hmm.
grass, 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 and you go over a little ledge, and there's the
Right.
White Rock, and that's
Right.
right behind the media tower on the west side.
Hmm.
So it was 2:27 when I got there, and for me, I was
Hmm.
there only a minute. Like I get there, and somebody says somebody got tear gassed over here, and I record that, and I kind of go away from that, and I don't really know what's going on, and
Hmm.
then I hear what I thought was a bomb go off behind me, and everybody rushes forward. And when I looked into the distance, the cops were a few cops had a guy on the ground hitting us a bunch of times, and
Hmm.
there was confrontations everywhere. And for a couple of seconds, I thought the cops were killing everybody. And I mean, like when I say a couple of seconds, you know how time slows down, and you
Hmm.
kind of get a hold of yourself, basically. But when the I know now what I thought was a bomb was a flashbang grenade that just went off behind us 10 or 20 feet. And there was probably 600 people in between and the people and the cops, right there. So your instinct is to run forward,
Hmm.
and then yeah, I'm sorry, and yeah,
Yeah, and sorry, Tommy, and last part is not very stable. So I think I don't know what's wrong with the internet, but just maybe try just don't move and see if this it's going to be better. Yeah,
okay. You
because
say don't move.
sometimes, yeah, just don't move and see if it is better. You can say
Okay,
you can speak, but just don't move and see. Yeah. All right, so the first you went to DC and you see the uh Trump speech and everything looks good and happy like a party atmosphere. And when did you feel something went wrong? And you mentioned
oh
that
yeah,
at one moment you think the police will kill everybody. What make you think that way? Because that is really
yes. So
brutal.
it was, and I realized that's an intense.
Tiananmen
What
Square, right?
happened was I had Yes, ma'am. What had
Mm-hmm.
happened was that I had just gotten to the Capitol and I don't really know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a commotion, and then I hear an explosion go off behind me.
Oh,
I know now that the explosion was a hand grenade, flashbang. But for a second,
mhm.
your instinct is to run away from it's a bomb. And then when you're running away
Okay.
from the cops in right here and they're beating everybody up.
Hmm.
So the process, and when all that's happening to you, you're not or good people, bad people. It's just very instinctual. I don't know how to
Sure.
explain it,
Sure.
but it takes you a second to realize, okay, these are cops, whatever.
Hmm.
But from there, what happened was the cops had just fired a 40 millimeter CS gas canister and it ended up gassing the entire line out, and they ran back into the Capitol. That when
Mm-mm.
I got there, so I got there right when that was happening.
Oh, I see.
They, yeah, so that's why it was all very sudden to me. It's like I
Okay.
get there and it all falls apart, right?
Right, 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 right.
So what happens after that for me is everybody kind of goes up the steps and they go up on the famous side where everybody's up on the Capitol on the west side.
Right.
And for a long while, I just record video. I see my connection. You want me to wait a second for the connection? Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Um. So yeah. So when I side, I just got a safe spot now minutes, and then I heard a guy going to hit us anymore. The cops are going to let us talk, whatever, because he had a bullhorn and he had just to the police in the tunnel, what we all call the tunnel.
Mm.
So I thought that it was going the vibe was going to 345 to see what was in the tunnel. So I go down and I come up the left hand side slowly, slowly. People were pushing you up, and people were coming down from the mouth of the tunnel. The cops had just beat them up or pepper spray in their face. So I would grab them, and I was like, "Hey, there's a really big step right here. Don't break your leg." Falling. They couldn't see. They could breathe, and they were hyperventilating. So that lasted for a little while, and this is the main thing. This is the tragedy, the biggest tragedy of what I witnessed that day happens next. So
Mhm.
this is about. I'm almost to the top of the steps where the tunnel is. And I know now through my research that a police officer in the tunnel took a pepper ball, he fired it 31 times with pepper ball gas. And I'm not exactly what all gas that he fired, but it was in a confined space. And when he did that, it caused everybody in the tunnel to panic. The cops start coughing and choking and freaking out, and
Mhm.
the people did. And in the footage, and this is the Roseanne bullying I'm about to explain. In
Sure.
the footage, there's a lady who was in the tunnel, and her name Woolen. After about 3 years, I found in the footage where one of the pepper balls hit her. So for me, my experience after that happens to Roseanne, the cops push it, and she ends up falling into me and knocking me to the ground. When that happens, other people fall on top of my leg, and my leg was on one side of the hand, and like a pile of people, 5, 10, 20 people, it was different amounts, but we
Very
were, and
dangerous.
I was, yeah, so, and I was trapped beside her for 8 minutes. So minutes, I couldn't see anything. It was black. There's still pepper gas. There's still gas to spray, the rubber bullets. And but when I look,
Tommy? Hello, Tommy.
I'm here. Can you? Okay, I saw you froze. I paused. Do you want me to continue with the story where I was?
Yeah, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Yeah. So when you said you talk about you fall down and so many people are
Yeah.
just on your body, and I said it's very dangerous, and then it's frozen.
So yeah, so what happened? They fall down, and what we're on the steps of the all on top of each other. Way they were screaming, "I can't breathe! I can't breathe!" And you could tell their eyes; they were terrified. They were scared.
Mhm.
As soon as Roseanne falls to me, we fall down, I look down and I see she's bleeding from the nose and the mouth, and she's unconscious. And this is a little known fact about this because even the guys who were trying to save Roseanne think that they heard her screaming. She never screamed. She was unconscious the whole time. A little known fact is there was another woman there. I call her the Mexican one because she's like a girlfriend of a friend I have who happens to be Mexican. And her feet would have been in the tunnel door, and her head would have been towards the monument. And one of the first visual memories I have from the trying to pick her up, and she was screaming bloody murder. It's like it was breaking her back. Screams that the other guys thought that Roseanne was screaming. And that's also why they are trying to get the woman who's right beside me and that I'm trapped by. So I'm trapped beside her for a couple moments, and all I can do, and this is my testimony to Jesus, and I couldn't do anything. I was trapped. I didn't panic, but I couldn't do anything. I knew I couldn't do anything. And so I put my head drill and I prayed and I said, Jesus, please let there be a moment that's come over this crowd so we can get up and we can get away from here. As I said that, one of the protesters comes up and grabs me and he says, let's get out of here. And now I know that protestor's name to be Jake Lang, and he's still in jail now. And I told him, I was like, no, you'll break my leg because my leg was still trapped. And I said, go save those people. And I pointed to the other people. So
Mhm.
when he lets go of me and then he tries to pick up Rosanne Boylan, I believe. And I think he realizes he's not going to be able to do that. And then he gets in between the cops and on the ground. They're still spraying the pepper spray between his fingers. And you're killing, recognize his voice in the footage later is how I know that it's him.
I see.
But when he does that, it does cause a moment, like just a half a second. And one of the cops kind of looks down and sees what they did in the
Mhm.
footage. But at that moment, there's another patriot named Luke Coffey. Luke heard everybody screaming that he wanted to help, and Luke's a Christian man. He was trying to convert. So Luke literally walks in between. Roseanne's on the ground beside me. He walks in between me and Rosanne and a police officer named Lila Morris, a DC Metro police officer named Lila Morris. And Lila picks up and she hits Luke with it a couple times. And he's in a defensive posture like that. She hits him times. And then she hits Rosanne with it four times, two into the body and two times into the head. And and that's all on video. And I know that those strikes killed her because I was trapped beside her the whole time. It did after she gets hit in the head with that stick those two times. And you can see this on the video. She looks in purple, and I was beside her, and I remember her very pretty complexion that she had before that happened. And it's odd because she was in so much pain. I'm trying not to cry because oddly enough, she looked peaceful and she looked pretty, bleeding and unconscious, but she looked pretty. I don't know. Okay, and after that happened, I was able to kind of stand up and get away. Like I turn around and I look and I see what's happening to Rosanne. PR her, the protesters are trying to save her life. And then I look down the tunnel and there's like 40, 50 police officers in riot. They look like stormtroopers. And then I had been gassed so many times, like six times, and we were hitting the head, people falling on, beat up, and then shock. It started burning. And we were in a pool of it. Me and Roseanne were in a pool of that stuff that they were spraying on us. So that was kind of the end of the day for me. I go and somewhere and people give me water and everything, and it's about 5 o'clock whenever the police kind of really cleared the terrace with a lot of tear gas and everything. And
Mhm.
basically, I just walked home. I just left the Capitol and go back and find the guys I came with in a van that night and go home the next day.
Sure, sure. Well, thank you for sharing the story. I believe it's really hard for you to just tell us and experience that again, even though
Yeah,
it's in your memory, but still it is tough. It is tough. And I have a few questions for you, Tommy. First, how far from you and Rosanna?
how far was she from me? Like
Yeah, right. So
12
you can
inches.
saw her, but how far?
She was a little bright, but within the 12 inches. At one point, when they rolled her over, her hand the back. She was
Like,
literally 1 foot away, like
okay,
one
is it
foot away.
like one arm like this.
Yeah,
This
no,
is,
less than that. Yeah, you could
oh,
touch
okay,
her on the ground.
I
We
see.
were touching each other on the ground at some point. I was beside her.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tommy. You know what? I saw some video. I think it's from you, but it's through 3 years ago. I saw the video that Rosanna is down and police beat on her. I think it's from your video on internet. I saw it. I'm
Yes,
actually
ma'am.
thinking, wow, who's the guy who took the video? And then that's
Uh,
really appreciated. And the second question is that is when the police start to beat you guys, are they saying something? They say get out, or they said you stop here, or what they saying anything?
so like my two kind of confrontations, if you would call it that, with the police.
Mhm.
One was at the line when it was falling, and it was chaos. It was already. I'll be honest with you. I have come to know some of these police officers 4 years later,
Okay.
and I do feel sorry for a lot of the police officers there.
Mhm.
Let me put it like this: I feel sorry for some of the officers more than others because even the others they just kind of lost their tempers that day, and then they got embarrassed, and I really think afterwards because they do know they covered up. Forget where I was going with that, but it was the police officer. No, they weren't all bad guys. Oh, my confrontations, but so that give them for going a little, whatever, this, that, the other. But some of them really lashed out and stalled out people to be violent too, and those are the ones I'm not willing to give the pass to right now. But whenever we got to the tunnel, there was no warnings, there was no talking back and forth. It was just warfare. It was just fighting. And
Okay.
I wasn't there for that long of a period of time. It's kind of like, yeah,
Sure.
there was no talking when I was there. But there are more than anybody else probably. There are lots of times throughout the day, especially in the tunnel, to where the people, they're human beings. They got tired fighting each other. It's exhausting to be in a fight. I don't know if you've ever been in one, but
Hmm. Hmm.
and when the adrenaline wears down, the humanity in both of them start coming out and they start talking to each other. But what happens is an instigator of some sort, maybe an Antifa, maybe a federal agent, maybe whoever, and swing at the cops again and start it all back up again. Or maybe a cop goes, well, not maybe, lots of the cops did go to Florida Tunnel and hit somebody in the head, and it instigates the watching Victoria White get beaten in front of them, and they were responding to it, trying to help her, and they
Hmm.
got charged for what they did, and as a result,
I see. I see. Well, I'm so sorry, Tommy. I think the connection is not that good. So a lot of you're saying it's lost. So I just want to confirm that. Yeah. How long do you have any idea, estimation, how long you stay in the tunnel? Which every
I,
bad
I
thing.
never, I never made it into the tunnel. I was on my way within 2 or 3 feet of the entrance of the tunnel,
That,
and
yeah.
they pushed everybody out.
Oh, I see. I see. So when is that happen? It's like two something, 2:30,
But
3.
I remember when I said at the beginning of the tunnel story that was at 4:20
Oh,
around. So
uh,
it started at 4:20, and,
mhm.
and, and
Hello. Hey, tell me, it's frozen again. So
I'm
it's
sorry.
yeah, it's okay. It's
I
just
don't. I'm
frozen.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So you said it's like 4 o'clock. I remember you told us that you went from the speech place stage to Capitol Hill. When you arrive Capitol Hill,
Yes,
it's about 2:20 something. So the
27.
tunnel, yeah, let's
Yes,
say
ma'am.
2:20. And then in tunnel thing happened at about 4 o'clock. So you have about 2 hours stay in front of Capitol Hill. So within the 2 hours, what do you see? And
Mhm.
do you hear at any given time that the police warning everybody there, just leave or just stay calm or whatever? They give any instruction or anything? Or the tunnel thing is all of a sudden happened?
Um, so this is how it was. So I'm happening in the tunnel, unless you were right there at the very mouth of the tunnel.
Mhm.
So for the hour and a half, 2 hours, I was
Mhm.
just recording what was happening. You could tell that they were fighting. You could tell that the police officers and somebody was going back and forth.
Mhm.
But I just recorded all that. But I never even saw a police officer out there. There was no loudspeaker where they said everybody calm down, go home. This is a riot zone. They
Mhm.
never did any of that. They could have flew a helicopter. They could have got on their audible system and said, "Hey, you guys are trespassing. You need to calm down." I never even saw a police officer until I got 5 feet into the tunnel. So there was no,
Oh, I see. I see.
mm,
Okay. Okay. Well, so Tommy, can you hear me very clearly?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, good. So we have maybe you can hear me very clearly, but we cannot hear you very clearly. Sometimes it's just yeah. So let me just ask you, you did not see the police until 5 feet from the tunnel, meaning that they have no warning, no instruction, no nothing. So people there are think that they're okay, everything is okay. So when they move to the tunnel and something happened, well, yeah, the bad thing happened. Is there any sign in front of people that said you cannot pass the tunnel or you cannot get into the tunnel or anything, any warning sign?
No, ma'am. There were no signs. The only signs that were there would have been torn down. The only signs that were there would have been torn down at 1:30, 2 or 3 hours before. Well, not 2 or 3 hours, but well before. So the
Oh, I see.
99.9% of everybody who came to the Capitol would have never seen those signs because people tore them down, and they
Oh,
were just uh-huh.
gotcha. So they don't know. They
They don't know.
actually know. I see.
And I would say the thing about the tunnel and what people were doing, I don't know if they thought everything was okay, to be honest with you, but it was just curiosity. They wanted to know what was going on in that tunnel because they're sitting there watching it for an hour. There's a big commotion going on.
Yeah.
And you know how human beings are. We're curious. That's what it was for me. I wanted to know what was going on in that tunnel,
Right,
you
right.
know, and then curiosity killed the cat, we got too close.
Yeah. Wow, I'm so sorry. I saw some audience just oh, someone just said maybe Tommy should be closer to the microphone.
Okay,
Where's
I'll try that.
yeah, just try to adjust it and see if it can getting better.
Well, I'll be real close now, but maybe it'll work better.
Yeah,
I'm getting a new microphone and a webcam. So,
yeah, I think it's much better. Well, thank you for 张弛有度. He suggested because we're live, so people are just give some
oh, I didn't know.
suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and then they say hi to you. And let's see. Hi, Tommy. Hello, Tommy. Whoa, I'm so inspired that we have a new MAGA guest. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Oh, welcome. And then say hi to you. And then, one of our audience asked, Rosanna was killed. It's a question. So, Rosanna, what do you feel? Is she's died on the scene, or she's died in the hospital? What do you?
I do a lot of January 6th footage research, so I've seen all the footage more than most people.
Right.
And there are long segments of body cam footage
Sure.
of two different times where they were doing CPR on her. So the
Mhm.
first time, this is what happens with her. So after she's hit in the head, uh, our people pull her away from the police officers because they're still attacking everybody, and we had to pull her away from them. And these guys are military guys or police officers. They have CPR training. They know what to do. I don't.
Mhm.
And so they start working on her, and I think those guys realize I'm not getting a pulse, whatever that you look for, and this is all on video, and they take her back to the police officers, like, here, help her, do something for her. And
Oh.
they're still doing CPR. They're trying to do CPR. They're trying to do CPR, and somebody has to pull one of the guys off of her. And it was Officer Gunnell and another officer who this is what happens. They break the defibrillator, the one that shocks you to bring your heart back. Those officers break the defibrillator, and they're on audio on the camera saying, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." And while they're doing that, they're not doing the compressions on her, and I forget what the word is. I think it's agonal. So the paramedics in the Epoch Times did a good story about this particular aspect of her story. to where they said that she still had agonal breathing. And I think if you were to talk to your paramedic friends or something, that's like an odd form of breathing when you're unconscious or something like that. Like it's almost just your body doing it. I don't really fully explain. But you asked me what I think. I know in my heart that she was not dead until the cop hit her in the head with that stick because she didn't turn purple. I was beside her for 7 minutes, the whole 7 minutes,
Mhm.
and within 30 seconds of that cop hitting her in the head with that stick, she turns purple. So
Oh
I,
no.
yes, so I know it killed her. I know.
Wow. So you are the eyewitness of her murder.
Hmm.
And question, why the police beat on her? Is she fight with the police or what happened?
I have a theory about what was going on in America, honestly, I think you have to take this into account because if you think about Michael Byrd, who's a black police officer who killed Ashley Babbitt,
Right.
you had Officer Harry Dunn, who was a lunatic of a police officer that day, who
Mhm.
almost got more people killed, and he turned out to be a liar and a fraud.
Right.
Okay, but he was black. Keep in mind, he's black. The lady who kills Rosanne is a black lady, happens to be black. My theory is with all the stuff that was going on in the streets of America, the color revolution that the Democrats were pulling on this country, um, that I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Because I think of so many things. This, okay, so these police officers in DC, mostly black police officers, and I think they really believe the Democrats' propaganda about Trump supporters being white supremacists.
Hmm.
So, and that's all they hear. And these particular officers I'm mentioning have a history of making comments and stuff where this makes sense. And what happened that day was Donald Trump supporters showed up with camouflage on and like body armor because Antifa was beating everybody up in the streets all year long. I don't know if you guys remember that, but Trump supporters getting attacked at rallies and stuff like that, or even the senators in DC. And just a couple months before that, at a rally, some Proud Boy members had been stabbed, literally stabbed with knives. So they got body armor and they put cutting boards from the kitchen in there so they couldn't get stabbed,
Oh.
right? So, but in trial, the prosecutors make it sound like these guys went out and bought real body armor and planned to take over the Capitol. And the prosecutors are evil because they know they're lying. They know that these men didn't do that. But
Mhm.
you asked me why she beat her like that. Was it personal? I this so everything I just told you, they had really came to believe that Trump supporters are racist, white supremacists, and are coming to DC to kill us all and take over the country. They believe that because the Democrats in this country propagandized them to believe that. Now,
Mhm.
I will take you a step deeper on another level. What was happening to Lila Morris, the officer who kills Roseanne, in my opinion, if
Mhm.
I've watched this body cam footage a million times, and what's happening to her is the officer behind her is grabbing her by the hair of the head, by her dreadlocks, and he's doing that, doing that, doing that, pushing her towards everybody. And then he
Mhm.
grabs her by the collar because after what happens with Roseanne, she falls down. She says she can't breathe. What happened is the officer is choking her on accident, I think, from back. He's grabbed her, trying to pull her around, and it chokes her out. But I think, and this may not be the most politically correct thing to do, I think this is all an argument as to why women should not be put in those positions as police officers. I
Mhm.
think she freaked out a little bit and went into an animalistic rage. And it was easier to do because she saw us less than human because Democrats had been telling her we were less than human for an entire year. That's what I think. That's why I think that happened. And she went into a blind rage.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, at least you saw that Roseanne did not do anything wrong.
No. Mm-mm. Roseanne was it's odd because I never knew her. She was a complete stranger.
Mhm.
But, it's like I was just talking about how they describe us as racist Trump supporters. It's my understanding that Roseanne was just a kind-hearted woman who wanted to support everybody. And I
Right.
believe she had even marched in a BLM rally earlier that year,
Right.
probably just generally wanting to support her black friends in the community that felt
Right.
a certain way.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
It's an evil story. I sometimes I can talk about it without crying and stuff. I've been going to trauma therapy, but sometimes it just comes. I just never know when it's going to be. But I do feel like I owe it to her because it's just it sounds crazy every time I say it, but she was beaten to death. She was laying unconscious, bleeding from the nose and the mouth on the steps of the United States Capitol. And a police officer picks up a stick and beats her to death with it. I mean,
That's
if they can get away with that, there's nothing they can't get away with.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, describe, if you still remember, how tall Rosanne might be. Is she a big lady or she's like
She's
small size?
she's a bigger lady. She's a bigger lady. She's probably I don't. It's hard for me to. I've never been good at judging height. Maybe 5'6", somewhere in that
Okay.
range. Yeah,
Okay. Just
not
medium.
not particularly small, but not. I mean, not short, but not
Mhm.
a tall either. I don't
Oh,
think.
okay.
I think I never saw her on her feet. She went the first time I saw her. She's laying on the ground beside me. She just
Right.
fell into me, and she's on the
Right.
ground.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And how
I've
about
seen.
the police, the female police beat on her? Is she big size or she's
I would no. I think she's I wouldn't say she's a petite lady, and it's hard to judge because they always have those police uniforms on that makes you look bulkier. But I
sure?
think she's an average size lady. I wouldn't say I wouldn't call her fat or skinny. In
Sure.
other pictures I've seen, the other pictures I've seen of her, she looks like an average pretty black woman to me.
Okay. And then how many times you saw that she beat Roseanne on her head?
Uh, once.
Okay.
Mm. But well, in that scenario, because I could have seen something else 5 minutes before in the chaos of a riot, but
Right.
it was that one time.
All right. So after the one beat of her head and Rosa's face turned to purple.
Yeah, her face, yeah, her skin, everything.
Wow. So then, well, I think you try to help her. I can tell from, yeah, you what you told me that you try to help her, you see something wrong happened, and you definitely know that she's in danger, big time. And then
Hmm.
you try your best at that situation, try to save her. I
Hmm.
really
I,
appreciate it.
well, I'll be honest with you. I, I I don't feel like I didn't do anything to save her because
Right,
I knew I couldn't. But I
right,
did pray. I did pray, and I think I prayed because that was the only thing I could do.
right,
Uh, and I think maybe that's why I do this work to this day. Maybe that's why I feel like I owe it to her because I couldn't do anything to help her that day.
right. You did. You
This is
actually
the only thing I could do for her. This is the only thing I can do for her now.
right. I really appreciate it. I understand. I understand. Well, so then the next thing you do, well, first, I didn't see you did anything wrong. Nothing wrong. You just
Yeah.
do whatever you can do. You're American citizen. You're a patriot. You have right to go to the Capitol to express your feeling peacefully and patriotically. So you have done nothing wrong. But I heard that Rebecca told me that you was in jail for 3 months or how long? They put you into the jail. Why?
Oh no. So that may be she may be speaking about someone else.
Uh,
I when they arrested me, it was just 3 months ago in June, and they let
right.
me go this day. Um,
Why?
I I don't know why they arrested me. They waited so long. I don't know why. I don't think they ever want me to go to trial because I did testify in a trial, another January 6th trial. And I told the truth and they didn't like it at all. And they don't want people to testify about Roseanne Boylan. They pretend that she died of a drug overdose. I don't know if we told your
No.
viewers that. So they told her family she died of a drug overdose and they cremated her body.
Ah, so
Because
there's no
this is
evidence.
during yes, this is during COVID. Now, just not to mislead people. I do believe maybe they got some permission from the family, but under these circumstances, they called them up, and these aren't necessarily politically, uh, you know, complicated people. They're just average American, simple working class people. They
Right.
called him up and said, "Your daughter was killed as being a terrorist during an insurrection. If you want her body back, it's going to cost 5, 10,000, whatever the number was, because of all these COVID regulations, or you could just have her cremated." And they were probably in shock and God knows why. And they thought that was the best thing to do. But this is going to sound unbelievable to your viewers, but they can go check this out. It had Roseanne Boylan had the same coroner that said that George Floyd was murdered by the police. And they took that coroner from Minnesota not too long before January 6th happened. So George Floyd, the guy who started the riot, the gentleman that died of a drug overdose in Minnesota, that that coroner was the same coroner as for Roseanne Boylan in Washington, D.C. on January 6th that said she died of a drug overdose. So George Floyd didn't die of a drug overdose, and Roseanne Boylan did, according to this very same coroner.
Ah, gotcha.
Hmm.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
I think my audience really needs some time to digest it.
I could talk about January 6th forever, because how they moved that guy to D.C. Have you heard of the Governor Whitmer kidnap hoax,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
there was
yeah. In Michigan.
Uh, yes, for Michigan. So prior to January 6th, they moved the head, the guy who was the head of the Detroit field office, that was the head of that investigation.
Right, right.
They moved him to DC, and he was in charge of the stuff on January 6th in DC.
Yep.
So they moved their henchmen around where they need them.
Wow. Wow. So this is really deep.
Hmm.
This is really deep. So
Yeah,
yeah, and Rebecca told me that you actually sued police, Capitol Police and the Biden administration. Tell us about that. You're a
yeah,
fighter.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a poor person. I don't, I have no money. And I'll tell you in a minute why I said that. So yeah, I filed a lawsuit against Joe Biden, the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, and about 17 police officers there that day, and a couple other people. And my reasoning for that is, I remember a few moments ago when I told you about how I feel the media and the Democrats radicalize these police officers.
Right.
I do feel like I really believe they're responsible, and that's why I
Mhm.
named them in this lawsuit, and Christopher Wray for hiding everything for obvious reasons, and the police officers because, and this is the truth, people have a lot of feelings about January 6th, and I'm not talking about the people like Nancy Pelosi who conspired to make it happen. What
Mhm.
happened that day on the West Plaza is these cops lost their tempers, PTSD, whatever it was, they lost their tempers and they got embarrassed because they're supposed to be the cream of the crop, the best police officers in the world. This is the United States Capitol, and we are its defenders. And they absolutely are some of the most incompetent human beings to ever carry a gun and badge to walk the face of the earth. I
Mhm.
think January 6th fully shows that to America. And the dangerous thing about it is, they're human beings, they're men. I've lost my temper and made mistakes too. But I didn't lie about it for the next 3 years, commit perjury against the people who I am guilty of crimes against,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So,
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, I know I go on a little bit of a rant, but it's
Yeah.
just my point of saying that is this. So I can be mad at those cops on a personal level and this, that, the other, and want them because of whatever.
Right.
But I suggest to you and everybody who goes to the Capitol to this day that they're not safe to this day because these very police officers who lost their minds and started a riot on January the 6th all got promotions. They all got raises and book deals. So now they're in charge of the security at the Capitol. The very people who caused it to fall on January 6th are now in charge of the security for everybody. So
Mhm.
yeah, everybody's in danger, and not because of some grand conspiratorial thing,
Mhm.
because they're incompetent human beings, like Michael Bird you were mentioning. I
Sure.
can't believe they allowed that guy to carry a gun as a citizen, let alone a police officer.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. So, when you are in the Capitol Hill in front of that, for about 2 hours, did you see the attention of the crowd, or people want to get into the Capitol, or people just want to stay outside and just what
There
they
were
want?
all kinds. There were all kinds. So there's probably, I'm gonna throw a number, 30,000 people all around the West Plaza. And
Mhm.
lots of people are, 30, 40, 50 yards away and never got closer. They just
Right, right,
got up
right.
bleachers. They don't know what's really going on. Everybody's curious. They want to know what's going to happen next.
Mhm,
What everybody's really guilty of on January 6th is wanting to know what was going to happen next and
mhm.
wanting to be in on it. You know how like when you're in high school, everybody else is running down to see something happen and you run
Yeah,
to go
to
see what they're all looking at.
right,
That's
right.
what it was really.
Mhm, mhm,
Uh, yeah, but when if you got close enough to the tunnel,
mhm,
that's when you saw the real chaos. And those men, like me, I tear up when I talk about it sometimes. It's just so much trauma.
mhm.
But the thing is, and this is a real fact, a woman was murdered beside me, and people standing 3 feet away had no idea. They didn't
Yeah,
see it. So much chaos going on. So you had to be kind of right there in that bubble. I mean, you
right.
knew something was going on, but you didn't know what was going on. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's a very key point. You
Mm-hmm.
have to get close enough to see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you're there, because there are so many things going on. So from your description, that most of people there are just want to be there. They know this is a historical moment. They just want to be a witness. They just want to stay there to see, and also they want to express their concern about our democracy. So this
Yeah.
is everything is legal.
You know what's yeah, and morally too, right? I agree with you. It's all
Right,
legal.
right, right.
We're set up, all that, but morally too. It was the Democrats and one of their icons, which I have a different discussion about this gentleman, but one of his sayings, I'm talking about Martin Luther King Jr., which was a riot is the language of the unheard, right?
Mhm,
And okay, if you want to call it a riot, first of all, you guys started the riot, but if you want to call it a riot,
mhm,
and MLK says it's the language of the unheard. What did they do to us all year long?
mhm.
They censored us all on Facebook, all on Twitter. They lied to us. They
Right,
stole an election right in front of our face. And there's no telling how many people showed up because of COVID mandates, restrictions, absolutely destroying their lives and didn't know what else to do. And
right,
showed up in DC, and a large chunk of the footage from DC is American citizens begging the government to listen to them. That's
right,
all they wanted.
right, right. So
They were the unheard.
this is a great to see the American people just stand up in front of the government and tell us, hey, listen to us. This is
Hmm.
democracy. That's first. The second, it's really sad that the government don't even give a bit for these people. They don't listen. Actually, they serve us. They should listen to us. Listen to we the people. This is American should be. But they don't do that. They just protect their kings, their queens.
You're right. The reason I was smiling is that we in America, to be so privileged and blessed with what we do have here, we can be pretty ignorant to the way the rest of the world runs, right? And so in America, we're so used to this stability, even if it is corrupt, right? Of the every 4 year thing. But other nations around, I respect other nations around the world. Whenever the corruption gets so bad, they say we've had enough of this, and they go to their capital and they run the crooks all out of government. And
Mhm.
I and you correct me if I'm wrong. I believe our Constitution says that we have a duty to do that if it
Of
happens
course.
in our country.
Yep.
And and I also believe posterity is going to show who the traitors in this country were when it
Mhm.
comes to January 6th. And
Yeah.
it wasn't the thousands or millions of Americans that God told to go there that day.
Right. Right. I appreciate you point out this is our duty.
Hmm.
This is our duty that we should do as a citizen. And
Hmm.
yeah, really appreciate you guys just they
Well,
did.
and that's not a slight against somebody who wasn't there that day, because I feel
Sure.
like for every one of us who were there that day, there were
Mm.
50 of our family members and friends at home who would have died to be there if they possibly could have been. You know, so that we were representative of the American will that day.
Mhm. Yeah. So, some words to January 6th committee.
So it's odd you say that because and I have a lot, I could talk about really some really deep dive stuff about this, but Benny Thompson, the chair of the January 6th committee, is my personal congressman in Mississippi. And
Oh,
so when I was telling you about some of the corruption that and I'm talking about drug trafficking, sex trafficking, assassinations, prostitution, all these people are tied to Benny Thompson. So the irony of God choosing, I really feel like God chose me to be the one to do and say certain things for him on this journey. I think God has a little bit of a sense of humor because Benny Thompson's my congressman. Out of all the January Sixers, I'm the only one where he's the congressman. And I got a lot of dirt on him. I really do. And I've always thought for 3 years they didn't arrest me. And I was like, they don't want to arrest me because they know I know all these other things about him. And I still do. I still do.
mhm.
Hmm.
Wow. So this is very special.
Yeah, well, and about the entire committee,
Mhm.
um, they're traitors. They are absolute traitors. They had knowingly and intentionally conspired against us and lied to the American people.
Mhm.
And I think that they deserve the ultimate justice for it. But I'm past that point. I'll let other people figure out who gets what justice. I'm just going to try to help them see the facts so maybe they can make a better decision.
Right, right. And w- what do you think about the pardon of the J6 prisoners? Do you think
I uh
President Trump will
I
do it?
I know that Trump's going to do it. I have been in the room, I don't even know if we mentioned it, but I lived with Ashley Babbitt's mother for a year in DC. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying more than I should or no, but I have been in the room when Donald Trump has spoken to Mickey Whithoff, Ashley's mom. I'm not saying I know what he told her, but I've seen the look on her face afterwards, and I have no doubt that Donald Trump's going to make it right.
That's
Uh,
great.
Now, as far as the pardons themselves, I don't, I don't like the the term pardon because it has it will always have a connotation of guilt attached to it. But I think we deserve vindication because we were right.
Of
I'm just
course.
sorry. Let me just say that we were right about the election. We were right about COVID. We were right about these Democrats and all these communists
Oh, yeah.
taking over our government, complete capture of the elite. They took
Mhm.
over all branches of the government without firing a bullet. We were right. Sorry. And y'all tried to kill us for it, throw us in prison for it.
Right, right, exactly. And then do you believe that the whole J6 is a setup?
Yes, absolutely. Because we were having what we wanted to happen that day was happening, and then the Rayette's op unfolded. And that's what they said caused them to evacuate Congress. But what caused them to evacuate Congress and the buildings around it was the RNC pipe bomb. I mean, they don't even keep their own lives straight.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. They never looked into what caused that day. I mean, they never looked into the death of Ashley Babbitt. They never looked into the death of Rosanne Woolen.
Mhm.
All these police officers on the West Plaza losing their tempers and their minds and starting a riot. They never looked into any of that.
Mhm. Sure, sure, sure. It's clear and clear that
Mhm.
this is a setup. And I think more and more people are believing.
It was a setup, but its goal, we were just collateral damage. They don't care about us. But it was to make it to where Donald Trump could not be elected again, either politically in the minds and hearts of the Americans, he's a felon, this, that, the other. But they were going to use January 6th. Because first of all, I think these Democrats had planned for more people to die that day, and
Right,
that would make their propaganda about deadly insurrection at
right.
1 o'clock in the afternoon that day when nothing's happened
Mhm.
make more sense. I think that they were hoping for a couple of dead congressmen, and then it would have made more sense because they were trying to outlaw MAGA. They were going to try to make MAGA terrorists, and if you
Mhm.
associate with them, you're going to prison. They were going to outlaw and
Right.
I think that that was January 6th was supposed to be the pretext. Look at them; they're crazy. They'll break into the Capitol and kill lawmakers.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. And then what is your lawsuit went Uh,
Oh, as far as that goes,
mhm,
when you do one of these lawsuits, you have to serve, for example, in my case,
right.
the President of the United States of America, which is hard to do anyway. Plus, he was a vegetable.
Hmm.
So I was never able to do that. But the reason I filed the lawsuit is I figure at some point, Trump, whatever, if we have a church, Trump has said this, he's going to do a church committee style investigation. And I believe that we're going to, let me put it like this. I believe that I'll have a chance to address this lawsuit that I filed. But
Okay.
even if I don't mind, I have attached myself to another class action lawsuit against the same people.
Sure, sure. So
Mhm.
mainly you start a lawsuit is because of the record. You make
Yes,
the
absolutely. I wanted to
you
have it on the record.
yeah, yeah. So well, this is a huge thing. Let's see. I have some people just Yui said, I remember. Oh, she's there. She's there. She's one of my audience and my friend, and she
Okay.
was there in January 6th, and she said, I remember
Really?
during 2 to 4 p.m. The gathering people were very peaceful.
Mhm.
More and more people were arrived from rallies. No signs, no police, people just standing there watching the event evolve. So just like you described, just people just stay there.
Yeah, I promise you, Cheyenne, promise you, if they had thrown a helicopter over us and said, "Hey, Trump supporters, y'all got carried away. You're in the wrong place. Y'all need to go back off the grass." We
Mhm.
would have done it.
Right. Because you guys are peaceful, so you like to listen to the instruction. You are not there to against the police. You're there just peaceful.
So, and this part, this is maybe something we don't know too bit about ourselves, but psychology is a real thing. When you're in a group of people, you're not as much of an independent minded person as you are so you're liable to just follow the group, right? And
Right.
there were people there, the bullhorn people hesitate to go do this, go this, do this. And
Right.
I know that people did pipe bomb investigation. I was over a year and a half ago. That when the truth comes
Hold
out,
on one second. Sorry, Tommy. You want to get in closer? Because it's I we cannot see you very clearly.
okay,
Okay,
is that
good.
better? Well, I was saying that uh I'm glad to see that justice and all this stuff is coming out, but I do think that when the truth about the pipe bomb investigation comes out, that it's going to prove that it was absolutely a government setup. Everybody's going to get a pardon things. I don't think they need a pardon. Uh, you shouldn't have to be pardoned for something that the government caused to happen. I
Yeah.
think that you need a vindication, whatever you want to call it, it's vindication. Like
Mm,
my example saying is that we don't pardon guys on death row when we find out 20 years later by DNA that there's no way they could have possibly done the crime. We
mm.
just let them out of jail.
Right. 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 Definitely. Okay, and then Yui said, so sad. Rosanna's story is really so dark and evil, these people.
Hmm.
And
It
she
is.
said, yes, we could not see what's going on in that tunnel because they're behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, well, thank you so much for sharing the wonderful story. Yeah, thank you. And
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, and I could talk to you for days and days and days. I know this is kind of like a get to know the summary of what happened, but if
right,
you have any guests who have any questions about anything, you can ask me, and I can
sure.
relay them, or we can talk about it another time. I'd be like
Yeah,
glad
we
to.
can. Yeah, we can do that some other time, and then we just maybe go deep about
Yes.
some details, and
Hmm.
details matters.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
yeah,
And
and
and I feel like God has put me in a place the last few years to be
mhm,
the one to learn certain things for Him,
right,
to be able to do something for Him.
right,
Hmm.
and then is there anything that we can do for you?
I have the only thing I don't know if I even have I don't work for anybody or anything. The only thing I have is a Give Send Go, and I take donations through there, and those have been tremendous help. And the Chinese Americans have been some of the more patriotic and giving people
Mhm.
for me personally. So thank you, those of
Sure,
you who are, yes, ma'am.
of course.
About Give Send Go, it's just you look up Thomas Tatum, and you'll see a picture of me.
Okay. Or you can give me the link I can put under my
Okay,
program. And I will
okay,
Yeah, translate the our program, our podcast later today and into Chinese, and then I
Really?
will put them to YouTube and have more Chinese audience to see. And I
That's
have
amazing.
a Chinese audience come here said, my English is not that good. I just come here to show my support. I'm waiting for you to do the Chinese version.
Well, I want to know when you do the Chinese version, are you going to have the thick Southern accent with it?
Okay, so so
Just
I
joking.
will, yeah, I'll text to you. I'll text to you when I'm done my Chinese version. I'm so sorry. In the beginning of our program today, I did not know that you should be getting closer to the
Come
microphone.
closer.
And
Well, I
thank you
tell you what,
for.
I think the next time we do it, I'll have a new microphone. It'll be better.
Oh, okay, great, great. Yeah, because I think we lost some important detail
Yeah.
for the unstable connection, but we can do that next time.
Okay.
And then we
Thank you
can.
so much.
Sure,
Huh?
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Merry Christmas.
Yes, ma'am.
Happy
Christmas
New
to you and Happy New Year. Hopefully, we talk before then, though.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much.
Well, real quick, if you don't mind, are you in the DC area?
No, I'm not. I'm in California.
Okay. I didn't know if maybe we're going to be in the DC on January the 6th and then the 20th. So if you're going to be in the area, I was going to try to look you up or something.
Sure, I probably will travel to DC sometime. Yeah,
Okay.
recently. I'll
There's
let
going to
you
be a bunch of us. There's going to be a bunch of us J6ers doing a press conference there
know. Okay, when?
on January the 6th.
On January. Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
Yeah. I was going to invite you to it if you
Sure.
happen to be local or you're going to be in the area.
All right. Thank you so much.
That's
Thank
going to
you.
be good information. Thank you, Cheyenne.
Sure. Thank you. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
thank you.